skateboard on bread.
He's got the meats.
Oh.
Is this a whole serving tray it's on? That's awesome.
3, 2, 1. There we go. All right, thank you.
Watching an artist at work.
How many feet of meat can I eat? Hey, Chew Crew. We're in the heart of copper country in Kearsarge, Michigan, home of legends, lumberjacks, and this absolute beast of a burger. Welcome to the Hut Restaurant and say hello to the Lucchesi Burger. 5 pounds of beef, 2 feet of French bread, and 30 minutes to make food history. If I can devour this skateboard-sized burger in time, the meal's on the house and I go up on their wall of fame. If I fail, it's $60. Only 3 people have finished this monster since it started in 1992. Today I'm going for lucky number 4, or I'm going home with leftovers the size of my 10-month-old baby. With this food challenge being held in Michigan, you won't be too surprised to know that the person that currently holds the record for fastest time to eat this burger is none other than Mr. Nathan Klein. He completed the challenge in 25 minutes, 17 seconds. There's a little bit of contention regarding some of the rules that I'll get into a bit later. But before we get into that, and before we even get to the eating, let's talk about my strategy, because this challenge isn't just about hunger. It's about physics, stamina, and decision making. The Hut gives you options for toppings. You don't have to eat anything other than the beef and the bread, but you can choose extras like lettuce, tomato, pickles, and onions. The catch? They give you super-sized portions of each, and you've got to finish everything you order. That means the wrong topping choice could turn this from difficult to impossible. I weighed my options carefully. Lettuce, sure, it adds crunch and moisture, but ultimately it's bland, messy, and frankly just adds unnecessary volume. Tomatoes, tempting for the juiciness and a little bit more flavor, but again, more bulk. Onions, sharp flavor, nice crunch, but I knew after a few minutes, and gosh knows how many pounds of onions they might have given me, that intensity would turn overwhelming. So I went with pickles. Why? A couple reasons. The acidity definitely cuts through the richness of 5 pounds of beef, and moisture helps everything slide down. Plus, they're mostly liquid weight, so if I've got to shovel down an absurd quantity of food, I'll take all the help I can get. And they weren't joking when they said they'd give me a lot. 2 full soup bowls full of pickle chips. How about you? If you were staring down this meat skateboard, what toppings would you choose as your sidekicks? Or would you just go with the beef and the bun? Now, this was by far the most beef I'd ever attempted to eat in a single challenge, and I knew going in what my enemies were: flavor fatigue, jaw fatigue, and temperature. Lukewarm hamburger is unappetizing at best and soul-crushing at worst, so my plan was to hit the beef hard while it was still hot, then tackle the bread later. To keep myself moving, I armed up with water and a Diet Coke. The water helps with dryness, but that Diet Coke gives me 2 extra boosts: carbonation to break up air pockets in the stomach, and acidity to wake up the taste buds that are about to be overwhelmed with beefy monotony. If you're looking for some of that rustic Upper Peninsula charm, you definitely got to check out the Hut. It definitely boasts that lodge feel with plenty of masonry, a lot of wood planking, and just definitely made me feel at home and back in my Upper Peninsula days when I was an undergrad at Michigan Tech. I had a phenomenal time doing this challenge, and a large part of it was the crew that joined me for the day. There were about 10 of us that rolled in to watch me devour about a month's worth of protein. It was a lot of fun. They were cheering me on, but also watching in silence, trying to be quiet because they didn't want to distract me. I told them that they're welcome to talk as much as they wanted, but I joked that I was probably going to cut their audio out anyways while I was editing. In between bites, I noticed that they were starting to talk about placing bets on how quickly I would complete this challenge. Definitely made things interesting and put some pressure on me, with the winner getting a beer at the Keweenaw Brewing Company afterward, which, as you may recall from several of my videos, has some very delicious beers. So the consensus, fortunately, was that they all thought that I could complete it in under 30 minutes, which gave me some confidence. Alright, enough about rules and ambiance. Let's talk about the food itself, because for a challenge of this size, the quality of the cooking matters. And the Hut, they nailed it. The beef was cooked to perfection, right around medium rare, maybe a touch closer to medium on the edges. Not easy to do with patties this big. In fact, the middle 6 inches of this burger was 2 patties that overlapped. That's a lot of meat to manage evenly. And here's the kicker. When I called earlier in the day to confirm, the staff told me their oven was broken. They couldn't bake it like they normally do. So instead, they had to cook these massive patties on the flat top. I still don't know how they managed to flip patties the size of a skateboard, but they did, and it came out amazing. Hats off to the kitchen. The bread? Also fantastic. Soft and fluffy inside, buttery with a nice outer crust. If this was a normal sandwich, it would have been an absolute treat. But when you're dealing with enough bread to feed close to 10 people, it becomes its own opponent. As time ticked on, the flavors started to get repetitive, and that's when the pickles really saved me. Not just the crunch, but the juice. That briny liquid was a lifesaver. For context, I've done plenty of burger challenges, but nothing close to this. The biggest beef challenge I tackled before this was the Big Mother Trucker challenge at Dottie's Truck Stop over in Cuba, Missouri. That was 3 1-pound patties. Big, but manageable. And honestly, that one wasn't too bad because all the condiments worked together. Mayo, ketchup, mustard, Miracle Whip, plus a mountain of vegetables. It kept the flavors interesting. This one, 5 pounds of straight up beef. It's a marathon. That being said, this far into it, I was still enjoying the flavor, and the grill marks were absolutely amazing. Definitely added a nice texture and flavor contrast to the beef itself. But I was still needing reinforcements. A combination of ketchup, mustard, pickles, Diet Coke. I was using anything and everything at my disposal just to keep moving. Nearing the halfway point of this challenge, I put down the last few bites of beef. Even though the meat was perfectly cooked, the sheer amount of chewing was brutal, not to mention the flavor fatigue. My jaw was screaming at me.
The beef is down. Where's the beef?
While I was finally done with the beef and glad to move on to something with a little bit different taste and texture, I realized I kind of hopped out of the frying pan and into the fire, facing a whole new set of problems. The bread definitely was giving my jaw much more of a workout than that juicy meat, and instantly I knew that my pace was going to suffer. That being said, I remembered Nathan Klein's strategy. When he did this challenge, he tore the bread into smaller pieces to conserve jaw strength. Genius, and I definitely borrowed that tactic. Not only did ripping the bread into more manageable chunks help my jaw, it also helped divert some of the mental energy I was putting into my concerns about whether or not I'd complete this challenge into focusing on making sure the bread was ripped into those tiny pieces so that I could just pop them in my mouth, take a swig of water or Coke, swallow, and repeat. Definitely made the uphill climb just a little bit more manageable, especially since one of the rules is that I wasn't allowed to dip the bread in water or otherwise soften it. Speaking of uphill climb, next week I'm switching gears. No burger battles for me. I'm heading to Ann Arbor, Michigan to scale a mountain. Sort of. Tio's Mexican Cafe has a challenge called Mount Nacheesmo. A nacho challenge so big, even Adam Richman from Man vs. Food had to face it. I've wanted to try this one for over a decade, and it's finally happening. Me, some of the Chew Crew, and a mountain of nachos. Will I summit? You'll have to tune in to find out. This is Nacho Average Food Challenge. Oh, wow. Everest ain't got nothing on this. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that there's a bit of contention about who actually holds the record for this challenge. Technically, Nathan Klein was the fastest to ever eat this burger, completing the beef and bread in just over 21 minutes. The problem is with the flexibility to choose your toppings or not choose them, it's hard to have an apples to apples comparison because while I went with pickles, Nathan went with lettuce. He was given the better part of a whole head of lettuce and then didn't realize until after he finished the beef and the bun that he also had to eat the vegetables. At about the 25-minute mark, 4 minutes later, after he'd eaten a good chunk of that lettuce, they said that was sufficient and declared him victorious. Nathan, if you ever see this, maybe we should do a side-by-side rematch at the hut sometimes. Not that I need an excuse to come back to the Keweenaw Peninsula. 22 minutes, 51 seconds. Wall of Fame, free meal, and a stomach that may never forgive me as I became the 4th person in 33 years to defeat the Lucchesi Burger Challenge, as well as setting the fastest time with pickles.
Can I get anything right away?
Sorry, was that?
Anything right away?
What do you have for dessert?
Lemon meringue, chocolate cream pie, mint chocolate pie.
I'll save myself for the KBC.
Hey, good plan. Reward yourself.
Thanks everyone for joining me here in Kearsarge for this legendary meat marathon. If your jaw's sore just from watching, hit that like button, and if you love watching me and the Chew Crew take on ridiculous food feats, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay hungry, and if you ever decide to take on the Lucchesi Burger or one of these stacked patty burger challenges shown here and here, do yourself a favor, bring a chainsaw.